Do you ever get the feeling your Doberman just doesn't understand the difference between where they eat and where you're supposed to eat? What do you want to eat? Well, this video is going to help you communicate to your Doberman what eating surface is theirs and which is yours in a way that they'll understand, so that, you know, you're not crowded out from your dinner table or countertops anymore. So what is counter surfing? Well, quite simply, it's when your dog jumps up with their front two paws on your counter or your tabletop looking for some food to steal. Now, smaller dogs sometimes will jump all the way up and walk around on your tabletop or your counters, but for Dobermans, it's usually just the front two paws, but this is a very annoying habit to say the least. Now, a very important part of stopping this behavior is knowing what to look for. It's going to indicate your dog's about to jump up on your counter or your table and grab some food and wreak some havoc. So these are the signs that you should look out for that might indicate that your Doberman is about to jump up. Number one is they're going to start circling your countertops or your dinner table. If you start seeing that happening, they're probably getting close to jumping up. They're like a shark in the water, just going round and round. Another sign is that they're going to just maybe randomly walk away from you. If you see that happen, that's a very good sign they're up to no good. Dobermans love to be right on top of their owners, and if they get up and go out of your sight randomly, something's up. They're either going to chew on something they're not supposed to, or if they're still potty training, they might be getting ready to have an accident in the house, or in this case, they might be getting ready to surf your countertops or your table looking for a treat. Also, another one is when they go up on their tippy toes. They'll put their butt down low and they'll get up high, and you'll see like kind of just almost very little to no weight on their front end when they're near a countertop. That means they're getting ready. And last thing is something called air sniffing. They'll put their nose up, their head back, and they'll start breathing real deep. They have an amazing sense of smell, and they'll use that to find their targets on your countertop because they won't be able to see it. And Dobermans have this weird little sound they make that's kind of unique, where they do the sounds kind of something like that. That's the best impression I can do. But if you start hearing that little snorty sniff, and especially if you see their butt down low and they're on their tippy toes on the front end, barely touching their front paws, you better interrupt that behavior because they're about to jump up on your counters. Now, a great way to do this is to just give them a really firm leave it command, or go to place, or whatever command you've taught him. In Arlo's case, he knows the command bed. If I say bed, he shoots over to his bed. Bed. Either one of those commands would be a great way to interrupt this behavior before it happens. And if you are a little late to the game and they do jump up on the counter, that's okay. Just use it as a great opportunity to guide them right down. Say off, guide them to the floor. As soon as they go down, praise and reward like crazy. You can use a treat to guide them down if you need to. Leave it off. Off. Good boy. You really want these interruption commands like leave it or go to place, for example, really well ingrained in your dog so that they have no questions what you're asking. If your dog's a little shaky on those commands, you're going to want to get those nailed down first because that's the foundation for training some of these more advanced behaviors like this one, for example, not jumping up on the counter. I did a video all about training these commands and getting it communicated to your dog in a way Dobermans really understand. That video should be popping up in the corner of your screen if you need some help with that. I can't stress to you enough the importance of interrupting this behavior, spotting when it's about to happen, interrupting it before it happens at all, because Dobermans are definitely habit-forming dogs. Good behavior or bad behavior can all become a habit, and this one specifically is a very self-rewarding bad habit, because if they succeed at it, they get a treat, right? So the best thing you can do here is just really focus in on spotting those signs that they're about to jump up on the counter or table and interrupting it every single time with rock solid consistency. That's probably the best thing you can do, because Dobermans will quickly pick up the habit of not doing this negative behavior. Okay, so you know the behavior to watch for that's going to indicate they're about to do this. You're interrupting them every single time. You're rock solid consistent. You're off to a really great start. Now let's just stack a few more cards in your favor to make sure that this doesn't turn into a habit. Number one, don't leave any food out at all. Make sure your countertops, your tabletops have food put away anytime you're not actively eating, or cooking with the food. Number 2, wipe off or clean your countertops and your tables. Keep them wiped down, because even residue or crumbs your dog can smell. You'd be amazed at their sense of smell. That'll help reduce the likelihood of this occurring. Also, crate your dog while you're cooking. That's a great way just to get them used to having a little distance from you while you're in the process of cooking. That way they're not just always on top of you every time you go in the kitchen, and they know, okay, you're going in the kitchen, it's time for me to have a little alone time. Another great way to do this is just by putting a baby gate across the kitchen, or a pen, for example. I like to use Arlo's pen for things like this. Basically anything you can do to reduce the likelihood of this continuing. It's really common sense stuff, but you need to have this working in your favor if you really want to tackle this issue the right way. There's another trick, guys, called the Vicks Vapor Rub trick, and I actually have no experience with this, but apparently you take Vicks Vapor Rub and you rub it along the bottom of the counter, and that really strong smell is supposed to dissuade the Dobermans from jumping up on the counter. I've never used this, I have no experience with it, but I'm throwing this out there because it is one tip that I was told from other owners. Okay, so by now you're getting really good at spotting this behavior before it's about to happen. You're rock solid consistent about interrupting it every single time before it occurs. On rare occasion, if maybe you're late to the game and you don't interrupt it and they jump up, you're always guiding them down and then praising them once they get off. And you're keeping the cards stacked in your favor by wiping countertops down, not leaving food out. That should be enough. For most Dobermans, because they develop habits so easily and they're so intelligent, that should be enough. In a few weeks, they should be right on track and getting pretty consistent with how trustworthy they are without you around, even with food out on the counters. Now, every now and then, there are Dobermans that are extra stubborn, and you got to go a little bit further. So this is how to handle those few Dobermans out there that are really exceptionally stubborn. So to train this out of the stubborn ones, you're going to have to do what I call kind of a sting operation type of training, where you put them purposely in a tempting situation so that you have the opportunity to train through the negative behavior when it occurs. The problem with counter surfing is so often it happens when you're not around, so that's really tough. So the way you kind of compensate for that is to purposely put them in a tempting situation so that you can correct or train them through the issues. So this is how you're going to go about doing that for each of these steps. Don't progress to the next step until your dog really has the current step that he's on down rock solid. So step 1, we're going to start extra cautiously. We're going to have a leash on your dog just to make sure we have a little more control. So put a leash on your Doberman, walk into your kitchen with empty counters, no food out on the counter at all. And when you get close to the counter, give your dog the sit command. And when your dog sits, step on the leash with a little bit of slack in it so that they're unable to jump up if they wanted to. And as soon as your dog pauses there for a few seconds or takes their attention off of the counter and looks at you, praise and reward. Remember to reward your dog in whatever way motivates them the most. So if they're food motivated, give them a treat. If they're like Arlo and they just love praise and attention, give them lots of praise and attention. Then you can walk away and repeat this a few times until your dog has proven themselves that they understand the concept. Most dogs will spend very little time in step 1 and will kind of understand this pretty quickly and progress on to step 2. So after your dog is performing this consistently without jumping up and you're confident they understand it, then try it again, the same process, but now with kind of a boring piece of food up on the counter, like maybe a piece of bread. Don't use their kibble. I'm not a fan of doing that for this exercise because that's their food and that can kind of confuse them a little bit. So walk up to the counter, this time with no leash on. If they've proven themselves in step 1, there's no need to have a leash on in step 2. However, be ready to interrupt that behavior if you see it or to redirect them down if you're late and they do jump up. And like last time, as soon as your dog sits for a few seconds or takes their attention off of the counter and looks at you, praise and reward. Now, once your dog has step 2 down really, really well, you can move on to step 3, which is essentially the exact same process, but with a higher reward of food on the counter. So you could use a piece of sliced cheese, you can use maybe a piece of meat, anything that's of higher reward for your dog. Repeat the same process, of course, being ready to interrupt or correct if you need to, and never allowing them to get the food no matter what. If they mess up, you might have to be quick on them, so make sure that you're ready for that. That's it. Now, that's some of the more heavy-duty behavior modification that I told you about when you might have to really train through a stubborn dog or a dog who's developed that bad habit of jumping up. But if you're rock solid consistent with those previous things I mentioned in the video, you're going to develop good habits even without going through these 3 steps. But if you want to supercharge this training process, that's how you do it. Now, as long as we're on the topic of getting your dog to have good manners in your house, there's a great video I did all about that. Teaching your dog manners should be popping up in the corner of your screen. In that video, I talk a lot about training your dog to ignore food, even food that you leave down low, like on a coffee table or ottoman, for example. I mean, food right at chest level or head level, and not act on it, even when you walk out of the room. That is a great thing to train in your dog. It just makes life so much easier. So if you want to learn how to do that, check out that video as well. And also, I'll link to a bonus video down in the description all about human foods that you probably have in your fridge or in your pantry right now that you can use as training rewards and are actually really healthy for your dog. So check that out down below as well. If you found anything useful in this video, guys, please hit that thumbs up button. I'd really appreciate it. And of course, the comment section down below is always open. If you leave a comment, I love hearing from you guys and what you're thinking about this stuff. So I always check that out. So if you leave a comment, I'd really appreciate it. And of course, I'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out with me. What do you want to eat tonight, Arlo?